Hey, it's Nolan Mathias with Mortgage 360 with another coronavirus mortgage update. Today, we're going to talk about the most recent emergency rate cut by the Bank of Canada. We're going to update you on the mortgage deferral process, specifically on rental properties. And we're going to talk about how to get your mortgage deferral moved to the front of the line when everybody else is asking for it at the same time. But first, this is the Friday edition. So we've got our Life is Beautiful hat on, our Be the Change t-shirt, and we're going to live a little bit of a beautiful life by having a beer. So feel free to join me. Now, as with all the mortgage updates, we always ask that you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit that notification bell so you're getting the most up-to-date information as it comes out. So let's start this video by, first of all, thanking all the first responders, all the doctors, the nurses that are on the front line of this, waiting for, whatever chaos is about to come, and hopefully it doesn't come, but they're ready for it. Thank you for preparing and being such a huge part of making sure our health system remains secure and stable. Second to all the people who are on the front lines in the supply chain, so goods and services. The people in the grocery stores, the people at the pet food stores. I think people forget about those guys. All the people who are making sure that goods and services are getting delivered to the people who need them. Thank you so much for putting your health on the line and being out there and making sure that the economy continues to run. We really appreciate you. So let's talk first about the Bank of Canada and the most recent emergency rate cut. Today, they announced that they were going to cut their key lending rate another 50 basis points to 0.25%. So what this means is that they are nearing the limits of what they can do from a quantitative easing standpoint. Yes, they can get the interest rates to 0%. They can get it to negative interest rates. But from an interest rate perspective, they've done about as much as they can do, because when you start to get interest rates that are nearing zero, every additional move starts to have less and less effect. So, even lowering interest rates another 50, 100 basis points to negative interest rates probably won't have a huge impact on the economy. But it's good to see that the Bank of Canada is doing everything they can to help through this scenario. And in addition, today you saw the federal government come out this morning and announce that they are going to subsidize salaries for employees of small and medium-sized businesses by up to 75%. So when the Bank of Canada hits their limits from a monetary standpoint, it's good to see that the federal government is coming in and introducing things like 75% subsidies on small and medium business employees' salaries, so that there's some fiscal involvement and some fiscal incentive as well, which you need both in a situation like this. You need monetary policy and fiscal policy to both be doing things to keep the economy intact. Now, the interesting thing that we're seeing is, one, the banks have been silent as of this filming, which is at about 3 p.m. on Friday. They haven't said whether they're going to follow suit and lower their prime rates. Every single time the Bank of Canada lowers rates, there's this pause, this moment of, will the banks follow suit? The last time around, the Bank of Canada announced an emergency rate cut on a Friday, and it took until Monday at 3 p.m. before RBC said that they were going to lower their prime rate, and then the rest of the banks followed suit. So we are collectively waiting for the banks to determine whether they're going to lower their prime rates another 50 basis points. And I suspect that we won't hear anything until Monday. But when we do, we'll let you know, and we'll update in the comments below if we do. Now, the big mystery in the industry for most consumers is, well, if the Bank of Canada is lowering rates, why are interest rates on fixed rate mortgages going up, and why are the discounts decreasing? And that's really quite simple. There's two things you have to take into consideration when you look at interest rates right now. The first is that every mortgage that is being put on the books right now is higher risk, and higher risk means higher prices. And there's also a significant amount of demand, people who are refinancing and trying to get into lower rates, and that higher demand is also creating increased prices for mortgages. So that's why you're seeing fixed rates go up, even though the Bank of Canada and the bond yields say that interest rates should be going down. It's purely a risk and demand scenario right now. It's like every single day we've got this onion, and a layer is being peeled off of this onion, and each layer is a piece of stimulus into the economy. And this week, what we found out was that several of the big banks are now allowing landlords who own revenue properties to defer payments on their rental properties as well. Prior to this week, it was generally accepted that rental properties weren't going to qualify. I think once tenants started realizing that they may not be able to pay their rent, and this was filtering through to the landlords and then through to the banks were able to take a reasonable look at this and realize that the deferral process on a personal mortgage versus a rental property mortgage we're one and the same. It's still affected an individual's finances, and we're glad to see that the banks are allowing those rental property payments to also be deferred. Now, the same thing holds true this week as it did last week. We still aren't recommending that you take a deferral unless you absolutely need to, because what you have to understand about the deferral is you're still going to be charged the interest, and you're actually going to end up paying interest on that interest. So the overall cost of your mortgage over time is going to be more significant. And with measures that we're seeing the federal government put in around employment and whatnot, it seems like the ability to make payments for a lot of people is actually going to be eased as we see more and more layers of that onion unravel and more stimulus being put into the economy. So don't take a deferral unless you absolutely have to. And, please, if you don't need to, stay the heck off of the bank's phone lines because they're swamped. There was over 200,000 phone calls last week of people asking for deferrals. And I can tell you that the people in those call centers and the people that work for the banks are being run off their tree right now. And they are incredibly busy and incredibly stressed out. At the start of this video, we thank the first responders, the nurses, the doctors, the people in the supply chain. I think we owe a big thank you as well to our bankers and the people who are taking care of that deferral process and all of that craziness. Okay, so at the beginning of the video, I told you I'd give you a tip to get your deferral moved to the front of the line. Now, this may work, it may not, but it's worth a try. What you want to do is take advantage of the email accounts that most of the lenders have set up for deferral. Because what they're doing is they're taking requests via phone, and they're also taking requests via email because the phone lines have been so jam-packed. In fact, they had over 200,000 requests for deferrals last week alone. And how you take advantage of the email system is this. You take advantage of the subject line. And what you want to do is you want to make your subject line stand out from all of the other emails that the people that are reviewing the deferral requests are looking at. And the way you do that is this. You want to make your first word of your subject line the word urgent in all capital letters. Then you want to put a dash and your payment date. Because if you have a payment date that's April 1st, and the person who's reviewing the deferral request can see that in the subject line, they're more likely to pull out your email and take a look at it so that they can get your deferral in place. Because let's call a spade a spade. The way that the banks are handling this is exactly the same way the nurses and the hospitals are handling this. They're triaging the most critical cases first, and the most critical cases get moved to the front of the line. So if you can take advantage of that subject line and make it clear that, I've got a payment that's due in 3 or 4 days and I need this urgently, there's a better chance that you'll be moved in the front of the line of that deferral process. So that's our tip on how to move forward. The other big tip, of course, is if you're on the phone with the lender, don't be a jerk. Just be nice. Everyone's stressed out right now, and the nicer you are, the easier the process will be for them and for you. So again, we always ask you, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We'll update you as more and more information comes available. And until the very next time, we hope that you have a great weekend, a great Friday evening, and hopefully you're having a beverage and some relaxing time during these otherwise crazy times.